Hello and welcome to another episode of Daftarkhwan Fireside Chats. My name is Rabi Malik and I'll be your host today. We have the pleasure of Raheel Ahmad joining us, who is the co-founder and CEO at DevNation. I'll let him introduce himself and speak a little bit about what DevNation is.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm Raheel. I'm one of the co-founders and the CEO of the company. And DevNation is basically on the mission of upskilling 50 million Pakistanis. And we strongly believe that Pakistan has a lot of potential. And we really want to empower people with the tech skills of the future so that they can compete in the global landscape. So we focus on two streams. We upskill people with our professional certifications that are in partner with top instructors that are either from Google, Facebook. And on the second part, we partner up with international universities to bring international degree programs to Pakistan. And eventually, we connect that talent that we generate with employers in the market.
And can you speak a little bit about how yourself and the co-founders came together to start to build DevNation?
Yeah, absolutely. So my co-founders and I, so Mudassir, Hamd and I are actually from Lahore originally. We all went to study at NYU together. After graduation, Hamd went on to work at PwC, and Mudassir and I, we were based in Shanghai at that point. It was about 2018. We started our own AI consulting firm, which I think we ran for about 3.5 years. We ran it in Shanghai, we opened it up in New York. And after graduating from NYU and launching this startup, Mudassir and I worked at NVIDIA as AI engineers. And that just really gave us the perspective of how big the talent industry is. And so beginning this year after COVID, we all realized that we were successful enough in our jobs and everything, but we wanted to do more. And we looked at Pakistan. We said that, we are from Pakistan. And Pakistan is sitting on so much talent, but there are not a lot of opportunities there. The education system is broken because we are from that system. And by living in China and the US, we really understood the value of good education. Mudassir and I were talking of starting an edtech startup, of solving this need. At the same time, we got connected with Hamd, who was at that time in Dubai. He was working at PwC, and we started brainstorming ideas. We started off what we cared about the most. And we found that, education and upskilling people, empowering Pakistanis was something that we all really bonded on. And so that is when we decided that we wanted to do something in this space. And that is how DevNation came to be.
You mentioned at your time at university, you started multiple businesses.
Yeah.
Do you mind speaking about some of those? What were some of the things you spent time on?
We were in Shanghai, because NYU has a campus in Shanghai, so we were right there. And so trade was big. Mm-hmm. So, just to earn extra money, we decided to get orders from Pakistan and send stuff from China. And we started making like $5,000 per month. And that was like really good income for someone who's a sophomore. After graduation, things became a little bit serious. And since our background was in artificial intelligence and data science, what we decided to do was start an AI consulting firm. So we were helping small, medium-sized businesses in integrating and implementing data science-based solutions in their companies to increase their profits and everything. We did that in Shanghai during graduation, after graduation. Then we moved over to New York, where we worked with NYU research and did the same thing. So our major business has been about AI consulting.
I guess there's learnings from each of those. I want to dig deeper into the AI consulting bit. Can you tell me a little bit about the early days of that? Like, you realize you have a skill set that you can monetize, but I assume, I might be wrong here, but I assume you don't have much sales experience, you don't have much marketing experience. How do you go out there and take a skill set and then actually monetize that?
It really has to do with what you need to be an entrepreneur, right? Since the beginning, since we got to NYU, we always had this idea that, we wanted to do something and we wanted to do something big. Yeah. And so we started off with these small little hacks that we started off. And that just gave us the exposure and the experience we needed to, sell something big, right? Without any experience, it wasn't a big deal for us, because at the end of the day, you learn on the job. Majority of your learning happens on the job by doing stuff. So with sales, we had no idea how to talk to people. But when we started talking to people, that task did not look much tougher, right? Yeah. It started becoming easier and easier to talk to people. If you find something that people care about, people are always willing to pay for it.
Absolutely.
And that is what the hard part is. So when you're selling, value comes first, monetization comes second.
Can you speak a little bit about your later experiences in the research space? So how has that contributed to sort of what you're working on now at DevNation?
So research really helped us think creatively about problems, and think creatively about very difficult problems. Because when you sit down now and when a problem comes up to you, the scientific method of problem solving is the best method to be. And if you are solving problems very critically and through a framework very scientifically, the chances of solving that problem actually
Are much higher.
they're much higher.
Yeah.
And so generally people I've met,
Yeah.
they reason by analogy because it's much more easier. You don't have to think critically, deeply about a problem. But instead, what I've learned is that you should actually reason from first principles. You should always go back to the basics and understand what you know to be true, and then reason from up there. It's much harder, more time consuming, but it's less riskier. And I think that is the right way to solve a problem. And that is what research gave us.
Do you have any advice for someone who's starting a new venture in Pakistan? Anything you might tell them, to be aware of, to be ready to tackle head first?
If you're starting off with a business, just try to understand what the problem is, who has the problem, and is it worth solving that problem, right? People start off with solving really big issues. Start there, but you need to start small. And you really need to find people who actually care about the problem that you have. You start selling them, generate value from them from day one, then automatically you'll be able to grow.
To innovate, to really build that sustainable business, you need to find and nail down exactly which problem it is that you're
Exactly.
solving.
There is no business without customers. Like
Makes sense.
there is literally no business without customers. So if you don't have customers, then you
What's the
really need to
point?
figure out how to get those and how
So-
to create value for those customers.
So let's switch it up a little bit and speak a little bit more about DevNation. So like you said, there's no business if you're not solving a problem. You've spoken a little bit about what you're doing at DevNation. Do you want to go a little bit deeper into it? What would it look like for a, let's say a Pakistani who's just graduated, or is maybe looking for a job? How can they engage with DevNation? What would that engagement process look like? And what is the ideal outcome?
So for everyone, the ideal outcome is a good, meaningful, high-paying job. It's as simple as that. That is kind of like the North Star metric that you have to hit. A lot of the Pakistanis, after they graduate, what happens currently in the market is they do a lot of low-paying jobs, right? They'll do jobs about 15,000 rupees, 16,000 rupees. Let's not talk about the top-tier universities because these people are fine, but the majority of the people are in tier 2, tier 3 cities and universities. And those people don't really have the exposure. So when they come into the market, they've learned some very basic stuff in their universities, but they don't have any sort of practical experience. They don't know how to build stuff. With DevNation, our aim is to make sure that we cater to that audience and upskill them by teaching them how to build real-world projects, how to work it out, how to think, and then at the end of the day, how to build products that actually solve problems. So ideal outcome for us is eventually these people upskilling themselves with the skills that are in demand in the industry and then landing a job. So I'll give you an example. One of the biggest success story that we have is this guy from Sawabi. And that guy joined DevNation, I think in August, and he graduated, I think last month. He completed the program. And he got a job offer from a company in Lahore. So when he got the job offer, and we told him about this, he went to his mother, and his mother said, "This is fraud. This cannot be true." I mean, people in Sawabi don't earn that much because he was earning way more than what the average student in Pakistan earns. And so he called us back. He was like, "Dude, my mother is actually very worried because what if this is fraud? Because I have to come back to Lahore. I have to move from Lahore. I have to say goodbye to my family." But we said this is true. And this is kind of like the impact that we want to create. So this is upward mobility. For the employer, now the employer doesn't really have to go find someone who is just out of college, then spend 3-4 months training them, spending all that money eventually for that guy to leave the company. Because that is what is happening in Pakistan because they pay less. Yeah. So automatically I have no incentive. I have the incentive to learn and then move if I get a better paying job. But we make sure that we save that 3-4 months of investment for companies. We do the investment ourselves. We build the community. We teach you the skill, mentorship, and guidance, and then we place you with industries.
It's a very powerful vision and a very exciting story. When you tell that story of one person, it really comes across. And you told me you're in the market to upskill 50 million Pakistanis.
Yeah.
And that's a very, very bold statement. So I'm a big fan of what you guys are doing and looking forward to seeing how that pans out.
Thank you so much. We are very excited to build what we are building at DevNation. I think it's very much needed in the market. Plus, Pakistanis have so much potential, man. They should be able to compete in the international market. Africa is taking off. India is taking off. And with such a young population, I think the time is right. The time is now, and you have to invest in human capital. And it's not a short-term investment. These people are still junior. They're still learning. But the things that they've learned how to think, the skills that they've learned at this early stage, they'll be able to get to an advanced level in the next 2-3 years. And that is when they'll actually begin to shine. And that is what we want to achieve. We want to put Pakistan on the tech map.
So I think we've heard a lot about what you're doing at DevNation. Can you tell me a little bit about what the problem is with the existing way this works? What's the problem with academia in Pakistan today?
So the problem actually starts with the education system in Pakistan. It's rote learning from the beginning, and we all know how that turns out to be. But at the same time, the universities that are supposed to prepare you for the real world, they actually fail at their job. And so most of the universities in Pakistan, they don't really have the infrastructure, the industry connections, the instructors to actually teach you the stuff that actually matters in the global ecosystem. And so they're going to teach you stuff that was relevant 5 to 10 years ago, but not what is relevant right now. So with academia, and that is a huge problem. Most of the people are focusing a lot on technologies that are either going extinct or that are very low in demand. And they're focusing on not really telling people how to build stuff. And that we see is a huge problem with universities. But more than that, there's no soft skills that are being, taught properly to these kids. And we believe that soft skills are actually a very important part of the entire grooming process. So you need to understand how to be excellent in your tech skills, but at the same time, you need to know how to work in a collaborative environment. And especially since everything is going remote, we need to start thinking about how do we prepare our workforce for that global market.
Yeah.
So with the problem, with the current status quo, universities are failing at this miserably. A lot of people that come out of the universities, they don't have the guidance, they don't have a roadmap, they're kind of lost, and they don't even have the skills. So for a lot of employers, they're kind of not that valuable. And that is where we come in, and we try to challenge that status quo by doing two things. By focusing on the skills that actually matter. Mm-hmm. And then secondly, we saw that we cannot just start our own degree program and just go talk to the HEC and everything. But what we can do is, we can actually partner up with international universities, and we can convince them to come offer their degree programs to Pakistanis at the same price that they would either pay for universities that I would rather not name. Right?
Yeah.
So these are the two things that we have found of solving this mess that currently the academia creates. And if we were to improve as a nation, we really have to invest in our education. But looking at all the financials of the country and looking at where academia is moving, we don't see that happening anytime soon.
That's why we need players like DevNation to come in and
absolutely
and do that job for us.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much, Raheel, for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me.
And thank you, audience. If you'd like to upskill yourself and land a better job, you can visit www.thedevnation.com, and further instructions will be in the description. For more videos like this, you can subscribe to Daftarkhwan's YouTube channel and follow us on all social media.